do that now. Okay, there we go. And also then just to say that this is an inclusive environment. There is live transcription enabled if you would like to have that show up on your screen. And please feel free to put your pronouns in your name. Mine are she, her. And yeah, be nice and kind and welcoming to everyone who is joining us this afternoon, my time, this morning for most of you, I think. So I have I'm doing a bit of copy and pasting to put information in the chat for you, so please bear with me if I'm a little slow getting that through. And I will keep an eye on the chat. If you have questions, please feel free to put those there. We do have a coupon code for VKL, which is VKL Jan 22. And I know that some of you have orders and are holding those for other things to come through. So please, if you have any questions about shopping the yarns or anything else, pop those in the chat, or you can raise your virtual hand or your real hand if I can see you, but I haven't got everyone on my screen. And to raise your hand, use the little reaction button and you'll see a little hand wave over there. So, so please, you know, different ways of interacting. And if we remain a relatively small group, it's also then easier to have live conversations with people if you want to have a chat about some particular yarn. So I am just looking at everyone's names. Obviously, there are some familiar faces that I recognize. And there are a couple of names that I don't, that I'm wondering if you're new to Cowgirlblues. But I am going to tell you a little bit about the business at the end, about how it started, but essentially we're an all-women organization, although we might be getting a young man as an intern next month. He comes from New York, but we'll see if that happens. Empowering women is a very important part of what we do, and everyone here has been trained on the job to develop the skills that they have, whether it's dyeing the yarns, Makai knits on the knitting machine, Cynthia winds all of the skeins into balls, and there are lots of opportunities for people to learn and grow, and that's an important part of Cowgirlblues. And I think that it's a really important part of what we are offering you as we send our yarns out to you, for you to learn and grow as well, and to experiment a little bit with new things. And so that is kind of what I did over the holidays. We're in midsummer here. It's 102 degrees outside right now. And I signed up for 3 test knits over the holidays, 2 of which I completed on time, and we will look at those, but the 3rd one I did not. But Melissa of at Fox Fig Designs was incredibly kind about the fact that I was behind. And the pattern is absolutely amazing, and it launched on Tuesday. And here is the Nouverie Cowl, and I'm just going to quickly find the info that I can put into the chat for you there, so that you can find it on Ravelry. And there we go. It is 102 degrees outside, but especially for you, to let you know how much I love you, I'm going to put this on. Not for very long, but you can see in terms of fit, it's got this beautiful ruffle edge on the outside edge, and that sits really nicely in terms of curve on the shoulders from the back, and then a lovely edging. It is shaped so that it increases to be smaller around your neck and then wider over the shoulders. And okay, that was your 2 minutes of seeing it on someone. And yes, Cindy, I also really like how long it is, and I really like the shaping, that it widens out over the shoulders. I knit this in one of our limited edition colorways, Summer Greens, which you can see over there, and it used 2 skeins of Merino DK. So any solid any solid color is going to give you a similar effect. I did wash it and wet block it today, you know, nothing kind of particularly fancy, but if I bring it forward, you can really see the stitch definition is quite beautiful. And these little bubbles are really cute. You need to either like cables or be willing to try them, because this is effectively a single stitch cable that gets switched backwards and forwards to create the lines over here. I have never knit cables before, but I found it manageable. It was definitely hard work, because it's one of those patterns where you have to be watching the pattern and the knitting all the time. It's not a sit down in front of an episode of Fruity Knitting and or something on Netflix and not really watch what you're knitting. So there is that to bear in mind. But wow, it's just spectacular. I'm really blown away. And Melissa West, who designed it, is she's on Instagram. I think it's at Fox and Fig, and she just reached 5,000 followers, which she's really chuffed about. And so she's a relatively new designer. She's based in Ann Arbor in Michigan, and I really hope that we'll be able to work together with maybe her offering her some yarn support and being part of her process, because I think what she's done here is amazing, and the pattern is incredibly well written. It's been tested and tech edited, and yes. Peggy, you should tell your niece to take up knitting and to find Melissa. So yes, I can't recommend enough the Nouverie Cowl. So yes, 2 skeins of our Merino DK yarn. And I think that it would work in any solid color. I think using a multicolor, you'll lose some of the impact of the stitch definition. So I would really recommend a solid color. And you can see on the wall over here, we've got a wide range of colors that you could choose from. The picture on Melissa's Instagram and on the cover of the pattern is in a very similar shade to our mustard up there. I have to reach my hand in the right direction. So there's the mustard over there. Yeah, just beautiful. So please put that into your project queue on Ravelry, or certainly have a look at the project. It's one really well worth knitting. So I am wondering, in terms of the process and discussion today, if there are particular things that people haven't seen that they'd like to see, or things that we maybe went over a little too quickly on Thursday or Friday that you'd like me to repeat a little more slowly today. Or should I just take you through our yarns and colors? Yeah, so if you have any preferences, please do pop those into the chat. For me, it's very helpful to have the interaction and to make sure that what I'm saying is talking to what you are looking for here today. Sorry, just moving that out of the way. So that was the Nouverie Cowl by Melissa West. And we started talking about brioche the other day. And I'm just going to find the brioche swatch over here. But talking about Merino DK, it's a really beautiful yarn weight for brioche. So this is a swatch knit in DK with Tambourine Man, one of our multicolors, and Sage as a background color. And I am going to, my next project is going to be the Concurrent Cowl or Wrap by Carolyn Bloom from Bloom Handmade Studios, and I've put the link in there. It's the pattern's written for different yarn weights depending on whether you want to make a cowl or a wrap. I think that I'm going to work the wrap, which I will do in our Merino twist yarn. So the Merino twist is here. It's a sport weight yarn, and it runs approximately 300 meters to the 100 grams. And I'm thinking about doing mine in a blue combination, so possibly the indigo with our 9 to 5 colorway. Give me 1 second and I will get that to show you. So there you can see those two colors together. And if you think about how the brioche shows up here, it's going to provide a nice contrast on both sides of the wrap. And the chess hat is a beanie that we talked about, which I knitted last year, and that's a reversible beanie. So you can see the impact of having contrasting colors, even if you're using a solid and a multicolor. So having one that's darker and stronger and one that's softer and lighter, no matter which side you're looking, they give you that contrast. So I think these two will work really well together. As I said, I think I'm going to do the wrap version, which will be in our merino twist. For the chess hat, Carol's asked, did I lengthen the pattern? No, I knitted the pattern as it was written, and it seemed to work out fine, and I was happy with the result. And I'm going to put the link. Have I just put the link in there? Yes, I have. I'm not sure if the pattern's available free. At the moment, it was when I chose it to do some brioche. But if you are interested in a bit of brioche, then I'm going to be starting that project this week. And we will, I'm also going to do a Zoom session next Saturday, the 29th. So sign up for our newsletter, for our mailing list on our website, and you'll get the details for that Zoom if you'd like to join. It's going to be a kind of show and tell, Q&A, whatever anyone wants it to be. So yes, do sign up. Thanks. Peggy has said that the chess hat pattern is still free on Ravelry. So it's a lovely way to test out a designer's patterns and their style of writing and see how you feel about them. So the other test knits that I did during the holiday, the first one was the Flex Hat by Nouverie Knit Designs. I'm having mental blank at her name, but what I really want to show you is the crown of the hat, which is very beautifully shaped. So it has a really nice effect when you are wearing it. So that's called the Flex Hat. And I knitted that in one skein of our Summer Greens yarn. This is one of our limited edition colorways, which has sold out, but we will be dyeing another batch, and I will let you know in the newsletter if we have it available for pre-order, and we can go from there and do some dyeing of that. So that was the Flex Hat. And the other project that I did was Isabel Kramer's Jelker Hat. And that we've put together a yarn bundle, one skein of Merino DK, and 2 mini balls if you want the contrast color pom-pom. And this one I really liked. I hadn't knit a double brim before. And so you effectively cast on over here on a provisional cast on, knit. So you cast on a provisional cast on here, you knit the rib all the way up and all the way up this side. And so once you've got that long rib, you fold it in half and knit the next round, knitting the 2 edges together. So that round is a little bit complicated, but it was really worth doing. And yeah, it's just a nice pattern, nice knit, and Isabel Kramer is a great designer. One of the things that I wanted to say, particularly related to the Nouverie cowl, is that I have decided this year that I'm going to try patterns from all sorts of different designers, and particularly newer designers who are starting out and have fewer followers. It's really hard to grow a business and to grow your profile and get people actually buying your patterns when you get started. And so I really want to support people who are starting out. You know, Isabel Kramer is an amazing designer and people will buy her patterns. Andrea Mari is an amazing designer, people will buy her patterns. I want to find other designers and introduce all of you to other designers. So I do have my eye on a couple of projects for after the concurrent, and so we'll see how that all unfolds. So those were my 3 test knits over the holidays, and they are all smaller accessory projects. But please don't think that our yarn is only suited to smaller accessory projects. It's also great for shawls, for sweaters. And one of the things that I've done the last 2 years is Stephen West's mystery knit along in October, I think it usually starts. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on. And in terms of bigger projects, I thought I would take you through a couple that use some of our other yarn bases, and I can show you those different bases as we go along. The first one is the Beehive baby blanket, and I saw a very cute embroidery embroiderer's post, I think on Pinterest or on Instagram, for how to embroider a bee. And I decided that I must actually take my blanket home, figure out how to stitch a little bee onto the corner of the blanket, that would be a very cute extra little detail to put on here. But this is knit with 5 different colors of merino twist, which is our sport weight yarn. And each stripe is 1 ball of 50 grams of that yarn. And then you've got a multicolor in our merino DK, which works through and has this little bobble stitch over here. Those are the bees in the honeycomb. So this is a great baby stroller size blanket, and many of you who are here and watching have knitted these. We're very happy to custom create a colorway with you, and our standard colorways are, for these knit kits, come in a project bag with the yarn inside and a printed pattern as well as a PDF for you to download. I'm showing you lots of green theme today because green is our theme for January. It's summer here in Cape Town, and January for me is always about starting fresh and trying new things, and so green seemed appropriate. I'm going to just paste a couple more links into the chat over here for anyone who has recently joined. So the first one, oops, the first one is just a link to our online shop, the coupon code, and where to find us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube. So Linda asked if you can slip your finger under the honeycomb. So the little, sorry, let me just put it like this. This little detail over here, yes, you can put your finger underneath it because it's effectively a bubble created as a slip stitch from linking this row with this one. But the rest of it over here, it's knitted into the fabric of the blanket. Okay, so there is a coupon code, and if you are looking, sort of wanting to get an idea of whether a knit kit would be within your range, then do have a look on Insta, at least on YouTube, because there is a YouTube playlist with all of the knit kits on it. And particularly if you're thinking, oh, would I be able to knit, for example, the Joys of Spring shawl, which I have hanging up here, you can get those tutorials on YouTube. So this is another one of our knit kits, and this one is called the Joys of Spring shawl. I see there are a couple of questions. The Rocky Road, will we do that on any of our other yarn bases? So it's definitely something that I'm open to trying. Yeah, I was just kind of playing with colors on Friday, and we need to sit down and plan our next batch. So I'll certainly put that into the mix. And And then a question about Nouverie. Yes, I used the summer green for Nouverie, and it was 2 skeins. So we have, this knit kit is in a combination of 2 yarns, our kid mohair silk, which is this yarn over here, and then 2 solid colors in our merino twist. So this colorway is called Karma Chameleon, and this is Rainforest and Orchid Blush. And the 2 different yarn weights alternate throughout the shawl, and you get an idea of the size of the project. And in terms of complexity, I would say intermediate knitter, but do have a look at the YouTube videos to get an idea of the difficulty of the stitches. So then a couple more questions. Will we wind yarn? Yes, absolutely. You just put a note in your order asking us to wind it into balls, and we're very happy to do that. And in fact, if you look on our Instagram feed, I made a little reel in the studio yesterday because there were some beautifully wound balls of all of the limited edition colorways that someone ordered that are waiting to ship. So yes, we're quite happy to wind the skeins into balls for you. And then Linda asked, what about Pringle Bay? Will you recreate it? Well, I would really like to. So certainly a version of it, because when I do the limited edition colors, one of the things that's really nice about it for me is that I don't have to take notes and make sure that I know exactly what to do and how to repeat it. But we do have photographs of everything, and yeah, I really like that one. I'm just trying to see if there is one sitting here. There should be one back. Yeah. So that's this colorway over here. So it's quite greeny blue, which yeah, I'm very curious to see how it knits up. And I think it might all have been sold, or there's 1 skein left. So I won't get a chance to knit with this one. But we do have a number of limited editions. So when I checked earlier, there was still stock of these ones on the website. So this one is called Beach Flowers, and it's quite soft with some little splashes of color. In fact, I think I'm just going to hold it that way. I think then the light doesn't go strange. Then I've got Afternoon Stroll, which you can see over here. Yeah. And then this one is called Flower Walk. So it's got a little bit of plum, a little hint of mustard yellow, some rainforest. So then Ronnie asked, do you have the Joys of Spring shawl in those colors in a kit? So when you say in those colors, do you mean these colors over here, Ronnie? If you do, yes. So yes, we do. We have 3 kit colors, and you'll see this one. I think it's the Karma Chameleon kit. And if you look in the drop down for this knit kit, you'll see the different color options there. And then Karen has asked, do you have a pattern suggestion for the minis? So yes, I do. And then just to say, let me just see if I can post it in. The coupon code is VKL Jan 22. So for anyone who wants to go shopping, which I really hope you do, I'm going to grab a set of the minis, and I'll get the Kid Silk one so you can have a look at it. So here is the mini collection in our Kid Silk, and you can see that it's 1 mini ball in each of the colors in our color palette. There's 5 grams of yarn in a ball, and somewhere here is a piece of paper with the meterage. So I just want to tell you in the whole box, it's 150 grams of yarn in the box and approximately 1,200 meters. And whoops, I'm losing them. So I don't have a specific pattern idea for you at the moment with the Kids Silk Minis. Although Melissa, who did the Nouverie Cowl, said she saw these on the website and really loved them, and I'm going to chat to her about maybe she would create a design specifically for the Kids Silk Minis. But I have been seeing a couple of patterns where, for example, something like the sea glass sweater, where it calls for quite a lot of different colors. That could be a way for to use them. And I also attended Cecilia Campachario's talk, a lecture on Thursday evening, which was amazing. She was phenomenal. If you haven't heard her speak, then I highly recommend finding a YouTube video, and I'm going to try and find some, and I'll put some links in my newsletter. But she has gotten a lot of amazing patterns, particularly in her new book, Making Marls. And I really thought that those would lend themselves to something like our mini balls. So that's in my kind of in my pattern queue, and I'm going to be starting to work on those and see how we could put them together. So I have some ideas, but no specific examples. At the moment, if you are interested in color work, you know, for Fair Isle, where you often need little bits of color, if you like a little pop in your socks, or sweaters like the sea glass sweater, those are all great ways to incorporate the different colors that come in the mini collection. Yes, so I think that they would be amazing in color work, and I was looking at a bunch of patterns that involved multiple different colors in one project. So I've created a folder on Instagram and Pinterest where I saved those now so that I can find the references to go back to. But one of them I saw was a beanie where it had kind of 2 rounds in a color, and that would be a beautiful way to use smaller yarn sizes like these. So our mini collections come in all of the yarn bases, and particularly if you're a sock knitter, the proper sock is a wonderful way to go, because then you've got the whole rainbow of colors for when you want to put heels and toes or ribs in contrast colors into any pair of socks. So Eileen has asked which yarns would I recommend for socks. Definitely the proper sock. So it's got 10% nylon in it, sorry, 25% nylon and 75% merino. The nylon just gives a little bit of extra strength and wear for wearing socks, particularly in your climate, Eileen, because it's not that cold here. So when we wear knitted socks, you know, it's for a very short season, and so they don't get as much wear as they would in your climate, for example. And then I think unless you're into a lot of darning, then working with something with a bit of nylon in it is a good way to go.
So Bridget, you're referring to it as proper sock. Is that one? Is there another name that because I don't recall you ever calling that. Is that new?
Oh yeah, so it's relatively new.
Okay.
We got some last year. So here you can see it over here. There's so I'll hold the label up there. So it's 366 meters per 100 grams. You get an idea of it over there. Similar to the merino twist, slightly finer yarn and a little bit of nylon in it. Also comes in all of the colors, we've got a couple of limited edition colors, 2 that I put up yesterday. So those are a nice way to go with.
And then could you use the merino twist as an accent color with the proper socks? Okay, absolutely. Now I'm following. Great, thank you.
Absolutely. And sorry, Ronnie, you asked about the color options. Thank you for going to look, because as I was telling you, I was like, is it on there as original or is it on there as Karma Chameleon? So the original is that colorway that that you were looking at there, this one here. When we designed the pattern, this was the color that it was first knit in. Yeah. So color is very much part of kind of, in a way, the thing that we sell and that we focus on and are really well known for. So you can see the color palette nicely on the wall over there, but combining colors is also something that I really enjoy and have a lot of fun with, and it satisfies my curiosity for trying new things quite often. And we've got a lot of swatches. Let's get some of them here. Here and on the website, where you can get some ideas for how you can combine colors. And with our green theme, you can see over here that this is olive with celadon as the background color, that when you start putting colors together, the shade of the one can influence how you perceive the shade of the other. So that's always something to think about when you are combining colors. And one thing that you can do if you like to knit with a multicolor is to find one of the color elements in that multicolor and then pull that out in your contrast. So this is Signs of Spring as the background color here. And then we focused on that little pink splash and pulled that out and emphasized it. You know, obviously another alternative here could have been to have put the olive or the rainforest into this combination. Another thing that I really like to do is to hold two yarns together. So if you are looking for a fingering weight yarn, then the combination of our kid silk and merino lace single is a beautiful way to knit. And here you can see how those two colors, the Signs of Spring and the celadon, look when they are held together. So in this example, I would then go ahead and, for example, knit a whole sweater in one yarn combination of two strands held together. And if you are, if you're looking at a sweater project, our coupon code is valid until next weekend. So you've got some time to work out the yarn quantities, and we're very happy to help with that in terms of looking at a pattern, for example, and helping you figure out from the size how much yarn you'd need to substitute and what the relative amounts of yarn would be, because the yardage is a little different on these two, for example. So here you can see another example. This is our Happy Days colorway. So if you have a look at the top, this is Happy Days knit in merino twist. And then we've added kid silk to the combination. So here is the Happy Days in merino twist and kid silk. Here the kid silk is natural. So you can see how it tones down the color by effectively adding a little bit of white and making it paler. Here it's in faded rose. So there again, it's got the pink feel, but a sort of toned down pink. And here you can see putting the kid silk and sage emphasizes that green a little bit in that yarn there. So mixing yarns together is also a nice way to think about color. And Peggy, thanks for your comment on the coupon. That's kind of what I feel with the coupon is, I mean, obviously it's great to get orders and to buy, certainly if you want limited edition yarns, then purchase those now because they do run out. But you can also ask us to hold the order while you then figure out something else if you want a sweater quantity for something. And we also prefer to batch dye you a sweater quantity of yarn, particularly if you're looking at something like the Aran or the DK or the twist for a solid color sweater, then we would batch dye the full requirement and send that through to you. So yes, please do take your time. I have some more color swatches here, which I can show you also to get an idea of how to pick a solid color to pair with a multicolor for different accents. So if you were using our Karma Chameleon, here you can see it with aubergine and there with the Camps Bay. And obviously, you know, these are quite strong colors. So if you just had, you know, if you imagined that you were having a much smaller relative amount of that contrast color solid, it's not going to dominate the background and just give you a little bit of an accent. So Rika, you have asked for fingering weight. So perhaps you could tell me, in that particular project, what is the yardage or meterage of the recommended yarn? Because what I'm noticing is that, so for example, the concurrent pattern, Carolyn says there's a DK version and a worsted weight version, but it seems like the meterage on the DK and the worsted weight yarns that she used for the samples is exactly the same. So then I get confused about what the difference is. So if you could perhaps just let me know what the meterage is on the recommended yarn, and then we can compare, because one example could be to use the proper sock, because at 366, 370 meters per 100 grams, that's very close to 400. And so that could work. Another option could be to combine the merino twist with the, the merino lace single with the kid silk, which will also weight it differently. So yes, do let me know about the meterage there. Yes, so it's 380 meters and 100 grams. So then proper sock is your closest to the actual meterage of that project. The other thing that you can do is test out a gauge swatch with the merino twist, because often, depending on how you knit versus how someone else knits, so I'm quite a loose knitter, so I can often get away with using a slightly heavier yarn than the pattern calls for, because even if I'm working to gauge, there's just a little bit more give in the fabric, and it really is up to you as to how do you like the drape of a fabric to feel in a project that you're making. So you could knit you could use a lace weight in a fingering weight pattern, or you could use a twist weight in a fingering weight pattern, but you're going to get two very different fabrics on the same gauge. One very light if you're using a finer yarn, and one a little stiffer if you're using a heavier weight yarn. Yes, you're welcome. So I'm going to keep going with some of the swatches, because there's some quite interesting combinations here. So always remember that working with colors with yarn is the same as it is anywhere else, that if you add white, you're always going to soften the effect of the color. So for example, if you've got a multicolor yarn and it feels a little bit too much for you, use it held together with a paler color, and that will soften the effect of the color, like here you can see on the Karma Camellia. You know, you could do something similar with a silver fox gray, sable slightly brownish gray, that will just soften when you're holding two colors together. And if your multicolor was already in a lace weight or in a fingering weight, you could then add the kid silk in the softer color. So Valera's asked a question about which was the purple color that I put with the flower walk. I'm just going to grab it. So there are various different options. I think that the one I put with it yesterday was the plum. I'm just going to hold them that way because you seem to get better light on them if I hold them that way around. So that's the plum in a solid. If you wanted a softer color tone, you could use the Orchid Blush. And I haven't held the Aubergine next to it, but that's a lot stronger and it's got a slightly bluer tone than the purple in the flower walk, which I did put plum into it. And then the other one I want to show you with that, because it's got some little bits of yellow in, it would also look amazing with mustard. So if you were thinking about a striking color combination for something like the chest hat, which is over here, that could be a really lovely pairing of yarns to put together. But I think also the mustard or the plum would be my preference with those two. Cool. What are we doing for time?
That's called, wait, for that hat, that's called the phlegm.
This one is
the flower walk.
chess hat.
The check. All right, what is this called again? I didn't hear you.
This yarn is called Flower Walk. It's one
Yes.
of limited editions.
And what is this one?
And then
other
this
one.
color is plum.
Oh, plum. Okay, now I got it. Thank you.
Yes, perfect.
Hey, Bridget, do you remember the Veer sweater that you knit? And so that project has just stayed in my mind because I think it's so beautiful. So I think you held Kid Silk together with, do you remember?
So actually with that one, I'm quite relieved I don't have it here because just the thought of even holding it in this weather gets me sweating. But I used the fluffy mohair for that one as my main yarn. And then I knit the veer, the feathers in the Aran wet. And for the Aran, for the Aran, you wouldn't, I mean, you may have some leftovers because I know you've knit beanies and things with our Aran, but otherwise a mini or two would probably be enough because it's a very small amount of yarn that you use for those little feathers. And actually someone that I know just knit straight through and she was going to stitch them on afterwards.
Yeah. And so you just use one strand of fluffy as your main color. Okay. And then because there was also a bit of texture. Sorry, say it again.
The fluffy's got beautiful drape.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's it's a double knitting-ish yarn. It's 200 meters to the 100 grams. And that's quite a loose gauge, which gives it a very nice drape. And actually what I did with that sweater is I did use a whole ball of Aran, 100 grams, and I put the Aran into the cuffs as well, as not just on the feathers. And I thought that made the feathers kind of stand out a little bit more and slightly stronger detail.
Because the texture of the Aran is not fluffy. So I think I'm remembering that's kind of that nice contrast in texture where you had the feathers.
In fact, let me just show you this one. Yes, so it gave a textural difference. So there you can see in terms of texture, there is mohair in this one, but only 20%. And yes, absolutely. Mine had a color difference and a textural difference, but if you wanted to tone in the feathers, even just doing the same color, but a different yarn, just gave that little.
I think if a pattern stays in your head for like 3 years, you better make it, right?
I agree. I definitely. So Eileen has asked, as a beginner sock knitter, how much do you need for a pair of socks? 100 grams of the proper sock yarn will be enough for one pair. Yeah, unless you're knitting an enormous size for someone who has very large feet and you're knitting them really long, but otherwise just one skein will be enough. Yeah, and the minis are great, or the twist if you want to just put a little accent. I would use the twist for an accent around the ribs, but probably not for the heels and toes, because on the heels and toes you want a little bit stronger wearing. What you could always do, it will make the knitting a little tighter and tougher, is actually hold the twist together with the proper sock on the heels and toes, but it will give you a feel difference when you wear them.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So Ronnie's saying yes, she's a sock knitter. She wears size 7 medium shoe, and with 400 yards of sock yarn, so 370 meters, you're going to have some leftovers. Yeah, me as well. Thanks, Ronnie. Okay, shall I show you a couple more projects? Yes. So we haven't looked. we haven't looked at this one in a while, but I saw it as I was putting the projects together. And this is a pattern called the Fairy Leaves Wrap. And it was designed by Noma and Lovu, Bigger Than Life Knits, who is a South African designer. And this one I knitted in 2 strands of yarn, 1 merino lace single and 1 kid silk. So this is a nice pattern if you want to try that out. This is a great way to do that. And there is a post on there's a blog post from some time ago, one of the VKLs last year, where I listed a number of different projects, but I will just put the details here into chat. Yeah, so that's a nice way of putting together 2 yarns, and it's a lovely pattern to knit. It's got some detail. You start with a provisional cast on down the center, and then work the leaves one way, and then come back and work the bobbles and the leaves the other way, and it's got a pretty cast off edge as well. And size wise, you know, it's long enough to wear as a scarf and to double over and wear as a scarf, or wide enough and open enough to use as a wrap. So that's a really lovely, a fairly straightforward knit for a lace and kid silk marled project. Then another one that I haven't shown you in a while is the Sweet Dreams shawl. So this was designed by Jane Renton, who's also a South African designer. And we did a knit along in our Wednesday morning Zoom group. And we recorded all of the sessions that we did. So you start at the small end and get bigger and bigger. And the color changes and interchanges as you work through. And there's some different techniques, which is makes it interesting and fun. So that's a beautiful project. I'm going to just put this in here. So yes, the colors are listed. I think these colors are listed with the pattern, but otherwise we have a bundle in our knit kits section where you can see the different colors. But if you have any problems finding anything, then just pop an email. Sorry, I'm just typing here. To shopping@Cowgirlblues, and we can help you find those. And Jane and I were actually talking this week, and she has a blanket and Afghan project that's designed as a learn different techniques as you knit the squares of the blanket. And so we are having a call next week, and that's something that we're looking at putting together for a knit kit. So that you can buy the yarn and then get access to the pattern either on a live class or a video on demand tutorials, so that you can work your way through the different sections of the pattern. Yes, the coupon code is VKL Jan 22. There we go, and that is 10% off.
If you're out of, say, the summer green,
yes,
could I order it? Because you said that you're gonna. Yes. So I could order it even though it says it'll let me order it, right?
You'll just need to give me 5 minutes after we're finished, and then you'll be able to order it, because I just at the moment.
And what about, I didn't look, is the flower walk available, or is that also out?
I'm not sure. There was some available before we started this evening, but I'm not 100% sure. But so with the summer greens, if you give me a few minutes after we finish, then I will make it available on back order.
And what about the flower walk? If that's out, are you going to redo it?
Well, I haven't kept recipes of those, so I'm loath to say yes, I will redo it until I've actually been able to redo it and can put the stock on the website.
So if it's not there, I shouldn't order it. Is that what you're saying?
If it's not there, you won't be able to.
Okay, thank
We'll
you.
tell you it's out of stock.
Okay.
So,
right.
Ronnie, that's a great question. Thank you so much for asking, because I have got all of the info here. So we ship with DHL, and it is an express courier service. It is not cheap, but we offer flat rate shipping for $25 US, and it takes kind of 3 to 6 days, depending on when you order. This is when Cindy always tells her story of it gets to her on the East Coast, on the West Coast in 4 days. So sometimes it can be really quick. Last year, I sent a package to my aunt in the UK, and we packed up the yarn on Friday and sent it off with DHL, and she had it delivered in the country. She doesn't live in London on Monday morning. So yes, and Valeria, that also is what I've heard, is that it can be a lot quicker than the local service in the US. But I'm not knocking local postage services, because our local postage service is absolutely diabolical. Yeah, it just, yes, we sent a packet just during the holiday time. We were officially closed, and I had to send a package to someone locally, but because I was just popping in and out to ship packages, I didn't want to have to wait for the courier. It was before the New Year's weekend. I knew that it wasn't going to get collected. And we had one prepaid bag for our local post office's courier services called, of all things, Speed Services. So I dropped the package at the post office on the 30th of December, and it was very speedily delivered to the customer this past week on the 20th of January. So if you have trouble with your local post office, we have the same trouble. So yeah, the courier service, yes, it does work. Yes, Peggy, unfortunately, we did have to put the postage price up. We have had big increases from DHL throughout last year, and then a big one kicking in now. We are on the waiting list to get to start doing some trials with effectively an economy shipping option, which would be cheaper than the DHL offering, but that one will take a little bit longer. And so we're waiting. They're a new business. They're working with existing operators, and in February they will be onboarding us so that we can start testing out that option, so that if you're not in a rush to get your yarn, you can pay less and still get it, obviously, but just it will take 2 to 3 weeks rather than 4 to 6 days. What other questions does anyone have, or what else can I show you? Because we have a few minutes left. Anyone got anything in particular? I brought along my toolbox, because I always talk about that. So you can see over here, it's a little bit messy and things are going to fall out as I tilt it, but I keep all of my darning needles and my interchangeable keys, my scissors, my tape measure, and it really is one of my favorite accessories. So the sweater with the feathers, you don't see it on our website. Okay, so that is Veer by Airy TML. Sorry, TML. And if you look back through the blog posts, you might have to scroll through. Well, in fact, if you search Veer, V-E-E-R, or Airy TML in our blog, you should be able to find the blog post where I talk about the process of knitting that, and the yarns and everything else. And then Rika's asked for color combinations, and Carol has asked for any ideas for putting together swatches. So Rika, any particular color you want to see in the combinations? And Carol, when you say putting together swatches, do you mean experimenting with different colors that you're putting together to try out swatches? Or what can you do with swatches that you have lying around?
Yes, I'd like to I love making swatches, but
Okay.
I want to do something with them so that I can refer to them
Oh, okay.
without, but maybe have a finished product made of them.
So one way that you can keep them not as a finished product, in Cecilia Campachario's talk, she referenced the wall behind her and stacks of pizza boxes. So pizza boxes, preferably not a used pizza box, but a virgin pizza box, and then she keeps all of the swatches in the pizza box. And then you could label the pizza box, for example, sport weight, lace weight, double knitting, worsted, and then all of the swatches you've done are in that box. I have started labeling all of mine. So I'll put the needle that I used, the stitch that I used, the yarn that I used, the colorway. It's obviously easier for me because I'm pretty much only knitting with my own yarn. And I'm always going to come back to that yarn. But for example, if you use our yarns regularly, then keep those swatches, because then you know if you're pulling out a new pattern and it calls for X needle or Y gauge, you can go and have a look through your swatches and go, I used the merino twist with this needle and that was my gauge. That's a little loose, so I should do my tension square on a smaller needle. Yeah, so in terms of actually making projects with them, I saw that you were crocheting the other day. So one thing that you can do to get them to the same size and to create almost a color theme that pulls everything together is to then almost do a granny square around the edge of all of your swatches so that you can then turn them into a blanket or a shawl or a wrap or a scarf. Yeah. Or Google projects to make with random yarn swatches. It would always be how I'd start. And then yes, sorry.
Yeah, Bridget, sorry. I just wanted to see a little bit more of your neutral colors, like the grays and the browns and I see in the back there you've got like it looks like a pinky right towards the end. That one, yes.
Yes.
Sort of just a combination to see how that goes. Oh my word, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it is very beautiful. So this has got a little bit of pinky peach in it.
Yeah.
And that would be a lovely combination for those two. If you like this multicolor, let me just pull a couple of other solids down.
Thanks.
And that's a bit strong. So if you want sort of tonally, softer,
yes,
colors, this is sable.
Yeah, okay.
And then there is some darker brown in this one. So this is mushroom.
Beautiful.
I prefer the stronger contrast with this one than the sable, but yeah, so that's mushroom. And then if you were feeling bold, you could put something like terracotta.
That's also beautiful. Yeah.
Peachy color in it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to pop in on Wednesday.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds
great. Thanks.
Yes, I heard Rika's South African accent, so she's not popping in from New York City. She's popping in from Cape Town.
In the heat, that's why my camera's off. We're melting away.
Yeah. So this is the In the Gardens colorway in our proper sock. And again, you could pair that with the terracotta.
Would the sage look nice with that and the pink?
So I think that it would. The sage, there is a lot of green in this already.
Okay.
Sage maybe too green.
Yeah.
But the hot pink would also be, the hot pink's quite difficult to show on camera because the color contrast just doesn't, it kind of has the camera, but
that is
but
gorgeous.
The hot pink also is a nice color combo there. Or the dusty rose.
Thank you, Bridget.
Welcome. Any other questions or anything else that I can show you? We've kind of got to the end of our time. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been really lovely chatting to all of you. And I hope that you've seen things that you like the look of and that you're rushing off to the website to buy some yarns, or dropping us a mail if you have any questions, anything that you need help with. Oops.
Bridget,
Yes.
I put it in my cart already.
Ah, good work.